Hey, this is Chris from EssentialSQL, and if you haven't had a chance to look at my course Fearless SQL, I'm going to give you a tour of it because I think you're going to find that it is something that can really help you learn SQL, take it to the next level. It's designed for people that have some of the basics down already that you can quickly learn from the internet, but then maybe are having a hard time digging into some of the more intermediate to advanced topics that you can find on the internet, but are just hard to get your arms around. And I've done that work for you. So I want to show you a module that I put together in the course just to show you the approach, because I think you're going to find this is something that would really help you. All right, so the course is actually divided into 8 modules, and as you can see here, they start running through some of those concepts that you would need to learn as you expand your SQL knowledge, maybe from even some of the interesting parts of set operators to joins to subqueries, common table expressions, window functions, and grouping and pivoting data. There's over, I'd say, 30 hours worth of video in all of this, and you'll see many different modules or learning lessons with challenge questions. So let's go in and look at something from subqueries. All right, so what I want to show you is a lesson from the correlated subquery part, and I'm picking this one because correlated subqueries are somewhat complicated, and it can be hard for people to get their head, kind of wrapped around the idea. And I just want to quickly show you the approach. So we're not going to go in and watch the video together, okay? But I want to essentially welcome back, go through and go through maybe screen by screen some of the areas and just quickly explain what my approach is. So the general idea is that I have the lesson split up into 2 major parts. There's what I'll call like the lecture part, and then what we'll call like the lab or doing part. And so right now we're into the lecture part, and I just go through some of the theory of what's a correlated subquery and how they work and the mechanics. And so some of it's real basic just to set up the idea of, okay, what is it that we're going to learn about? And then I get into what are the parts of a subquery or a correlated subquery, so that when we're talking about it and I talk about the correlation, you're going to understand what I mean, and I actually dig a little deeper into some of those ideas and will describe that, because I just keep going through the video on those things. And then I get into the mechanics of how the correlated subquery actually works, and I will go through this diagram for several minutes just to explain how the pieces actually work together, so that by the time you get through this diagram and me explaining it, you should have a really good idea of how the mechanics of a correlated subquery works. But if I'm just talking to you about this and you're just watching slides, how much learning can you get? So let's go into labs, because that's really where things start to happen. And since you can set up the same environment on your computer or in the cloud, then you could either follow along with the code, or you can watch and then do it later. And what I do is I slowly go through examples on correlated subqueries. They get harder as we go through the examples, and as you can see, sometimes I'll even make mistakes and explain my mistakes. So there's more to this than just like, here's the correlated subquery and it's a script. It's very organic, so it takes some time a bit, but as I go through this, you will learn how I would approach doing correlated subqueries, okay? And I just kind of move through the whole process so that by the end, you understand what a correlated subquery is, how they work, and what's one of the reasons that you'd want to use them, okay? And then the idea then is, once you're done with this whole lecture, you would take the challenge at the bottom of this lesson. And this is one thing I think that's really cool, is I have these challenge questions, and what they do is they're really your homework, right? So you just learned about correlated subqueries, you watched me do some stuff, you may have followed along, but now let's go in and have you do some correlated subqueries. So after every lesson, I'll have a couple questions that you can go through, and some of them are a little more comprehensive than others, and some are like almost like case studies. So I'm going to go down to the second question here, where it talks about the warehouse manager wants to create a report similar to the one shown below. So you got this report where it's like got the product information, and then it looks like it has min and max and average safety stock levels. So after watching the correlated subquery lesson, you're going to go, oh, I know how to calculate the min and max and have it be put onto this report. So the real lesson here is, how do I get these numbers on this report? And then I show you the tables you can use, and the cool thing is you can write your query right in here. So I'm not going to sit here and write out the query, but one thing I want to show you is I do have the answer that you could use if you get stuck, right? And if you have, by the guided portion of the class, you can always email me and ask questions. But the cool thing is you can just sit here and run this query, and it'll come back and show you the results. So if you don't have immediate access to a computer, you can still do the lab work, okay? Because this is actually going against the SQL Server database. I think that's a really neat part of the course. And then lastly, let's go back out to the course. The one last thing I think that's pretty cool here is we have quizzes. So let's see if I can find a quiz. Oh, here's one. What operator would you use? Oh, let's do a correlated subquery. Is a correlated subquery needed? So the idea is I have a quiz. You take the quiz and you can go through. Can you tell me when to use a correlated subquery? So I'll start the quiz, and then it'll go through the questions of whether a correlated subquery. What situations do you feel you need as a correlated subquery? So it's actually pretty cool. So the quizzes are great. They help reinforce. So you got lessons, quizzes, and then there's also some resources for you, and then you can get to other bonuses. So depending on how you got brought into the course, if you're in the guided program, there's the community. Everybody gets the introduction to database normalization, which is a course on just understanding database normalization. So if you've never really understood, like, why are there so many tables in an SQL database, this kind of gives you that overall gist of what's going on. And then I include the recorded Zoom calls with everybody, so you should get that as well. All right, and the practice problems. So that's another bonus that you would receive. Anyways, I just thought that you would appreciate seeing a tour, because sometimes when you look to find something that you're interested in, it's hard to see inside the box, right? And so now I want to show you what's inside the box. Remember that with any of these products, there's always an unconditional guarantee. So if within 30 days, if you don't like it, you can just tell me, hey Chris, this wasn't the learning experience I thought it was going to be for me, and could I please have a refund? And I will gladly give you a refund. And I hope you have a great day, and thanks for listening.